Welcome back to the Christianity in Business podcast, an initiative of the Archie W. Dunham College of Business at Houston Baptist University. I'm your host, Darren Shearer, and this is the show that helps Christian business leaders to integrate biblical values into business. On this episode, we're joined by Kenn Kelly. He's an entrepreneur with both Fortune 100 and Silicon Valley startup experience, leveraging business to solve the world's most complex problems. He co-founded Never Settle, a business software application and custom API provider. Defining and building company culture are daily pursuits in business, as he believes everything stems from culture. Kenn, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
So tell us a bit more about who you are and the ventures you're involved in, because there are many.
Okay. Yeah. I think first and foremost, I'm just a son. I'm a son of the King. You know, I was a boy who was adopted. I was very, very lost. I came from a fairly broken home, and looking back, I can see just God's hand and kindness in my life through my rebellious periods. And so I think my baseline is always just like, I'm a son who's loved. And I was super blessed to be a first generation college student. Went to college. I barely got through high school because I was so disengaged. I think my high school GPA was a 1.7, and I skimmed into college on academic probation. And I had a professor that told me, to a class of, I think it was like 600 people, she's going to give out 3 A's, but to my particular class, because she had multiple sessions, she would not give any one of us an A. And it really upset me. And I was like, who is this woman that's going to tell me that I can't get an A? And I had no interest in the school, really. And it ignited something in me. And I ended up graduating top of my class as magna cum laude. And then, education was super transformative to my life. And, met Jesus at a young age. And like I said, I feel like he just had kindness with me, to be patient with me through all my various challenges, but ended up going to the normal business world, was in management consulting for a while, and then Silicon Valley, and did a few other things. But through all those experiences, I feel like I learned a lot of what was going on really well, but probably even more so things that were really broken. And there was something that was kind of eroding my soul of wanting to do business, which I was gifted at, but glorify the kingdom. And so I ended up leaving, through my career, I ended up starting Never Settle. We're a digital marketing creative agency, but it was really based on, how are we going to do business? There wasn't a grand vision. It was just, I'm really tired of the way that business is being run. So can we do business in a way that starts from a biblical perspective? And I went to some of my big investors in the past and advisors that we've done some stuff. And they all told me, Ken, you have a great heart, but you were going to fail. Like, the business world is going to tear you apart, and you will never, like, that's a great concept, but it'll never work. And I was just so tired of the way.
Why not? Why did they say it wouldn't work?
They just didn't believe that you could have this Christianity biblical based view where, it's like, they believe it's sharks out there and it's going to be too kind and too neat. And I've just had a roadmap in my life that's really said, whether I understand it or not, I really believe biblical values are a roadmap for my life. It's a manual that is written that will always be proven right. And so I kind of went into it with blind faith. A lot of people laughed me off. And then when we got through our first year, and we're like, wow, like, we're still here. I was like, I had taken in so much doubt from the critics. And those first years were probably the most informative of us establishing who we are as a company, where we just, everything that we did, like, how are we going to hire, and what's the company based on, and why are we in business, and what are we doing? Every single one of those conversations was multiple month conversations of looking at the Bible and praying about it, to come up with conclusions, where we ended up kind of putting that all into our operating agreement, actually, like what our conclusions were. So, so I'm a son, and I currently work in business, would probably be the summary of all of that.
Yeah. Is there a particular Bible verse or passage that really kind of encapsulates the way that you see the integration of your Christian faith and business?
Yeah, I hadn't before I started prepping for this, and I was thinking about it based on some questions that you had provided, and I got to sit in this. And I'm so grateful that you asked that, because I looked at everything, and I would say everything that we've built, or everything that I've built my life on, really comes down to Exodus 33. And in verse 15, Moses, to kind of set the stage for Exodus. So God is talking to Moses, and he's telling him that, like, you're going to take my people to the promised land and deliver them from Egypt, and I'm gonna be with you. And Moses just responds in verse 15, and he said, not without your presence. I think specifically, he says, and he said to him, if your presence is not going, do not lead us up from here. And to me, everything in life is pointless without God being there. But the humility and the know-withal to know that, like, nothing else matters without your presence, and it's his presence, right? So it's more than just, I need you to help me, or I need this other things. It's actually, I want to be with you. And so to get to walk, with God, to be in his cadence and his step, is, to me, the foundation behind everything that I want to be about, right? And there's definitely times where I don't do that, and that's what I want to be about. And I want our company to be built around where is God going. So I want to follow his presence, right? They followed the cloud by day and the fire by night. They did not lead the show, right? But they did do things. So that's the posture that I want our company to have.
Yeah. What does that look like as a company in practice?
Yeah, there's a lot of different areas for me that impacts, but I think first and foremost is just making sure that my personal relationship with God is always first. And so starting my mornings out with different times of trying to encounter and just experience him, whether it's worship or prayer or solitude or whatever that may be, spending time with him. And then throughout my day, making sure that I'm connected. That's like one of my deep prayers every morning, is that I would abide in Yeshua, that I would abide in Jesus and know his will and his wisdom. And so I know that if I'm not connected to the vine, nothing is possible, right? It's pointless. I mean, scripture tells us that abide in me and I in you. And apart from me, you can do nothing, but in me, you can do all things. And so I know that if I'm not going to the well of life every day, getting filled, that, like, I'm going to fail really big. And so I'd say my posture first of, like, not without your presence, is his presence is there. I have to go and I have to choose to encounter and to immerse myself in that. And then practically, his presence, he says, follow my laws, obey my voice, like, love me, like, give me your all. And so as we have thought about the business, like I said, even into our operating agreement, we've said, what does the Bible say about certain things? And so a couple examples, because I know you were talking about practical examples. A couple of things, like love your neighbors yourself. And one of the things we instituted really early was this idea that we're going to have 40-hour work weeks, and no more, no less. And not because we think 40 hours is how much time a human's supposed to work. I personally believe people were made to work 6 days and to rest 1 day. But what we realized is that to love our neighbor, to love our team as ourselves, means, like, we have to love their community and the things that they're a part of. So if we ask our team to devote an exorbitant amount of time to what we're doing, even if what we're doing is amazing, like, never settles on a mission to see human trafficking ended. And it's going to take thousands of organizations and other people, but, like, we want to be part of that train, and we're investing a ton into that. That's a really worthy cause, but we still limit our staff to 40 hours a week, because we want them to be present with their families, present with their own faith. Our company is very diverse. We have lots of people from different religious backgrounds, people who believe in God, people who don't believe in God, and kind of everything in between. But we want people to be present to their families, their communities, to have capacity to serve in those areas. And if we require a ton from them, there's no way that they can show up and be fully alive in those other places, even though, hopefully they're working more than 40 by helping a neighbor, or they're investing in a nonprofit, or they have their side hobby, or whatever they're interested in, music or whatever that may be. So that would be one practical example. Another one is tithing. Was really apparent to us as was everything is Yahweh's, everything is the Lord's, right? Everything truly is his. And it's not his is 10%, mine's 90%. Literally everything he has, or everything I have is his. And all he's done is he's allowed me to be a steward of these resources. And the weight that carries when you're in business and the resources are significantly more than maybe you have as a person was very humbling. And for us to say, okay, what does this mean? Like, God's going to trust us with people, with time, their talent, and then these finances. And how do we steward that? And so we had lots of discussions in that. But one of the things that came out of that was we need to be really intentional what we focus our people's time on and what we focus their talent, like being able to see, like, this person is really gifted in this area. We don't want to squander that. Like, that's a gift from God. How do we pull that out to use it to glorify God in the marketplace or in the things that we're doing? And then with tithing was like, these are always his finances. He's just made us a dispenser. Like, we just get to write, it's his checkbook, and we get to use it. And so just to be in relationship and harmony with him, like, what do you want to do with your fund? Like, what are you wanting to do with your assets, Father? And so one of the things we said is just as a rhythm, we're going to tithe as a company. And for us, it's just tithing off of revenue, not profit. Revenue, I'd say revenue after cost of goods sold. And just saying, like, that's really important. And for us, most of that goes to missionaries and then to anti-trafficking. It used to be really diverse. And one of the things that just, every year we try to revisit this stuff. I think that's what it looks like to say, not without your presence. Like, if you're in his presence, there's a continual conversation, which means likely things are going to change because I probably didn't hear it accurately the first time. Mm-hmm. And so one of the things is we used to just kind of give all over the place. And then we came to an understanding, I'd say, in just walking with God of to effectively use his resources, we need to kind of go deeper than wider. And so we've really narrowed it to the missionaries that we started supporting in the beginning. Like, we still maintain that. And then everything else goes in towards fighting human trafficking. So that's like where everything goes. But as a company, we did that. And then I don't think I've ever shared this before. And I just appreciate that you said, let's talk about practical things. I just share because I've been really encouraged when people have been vulnerable, and I've been able to learn from that. But as partners, we also sign that, like, at a minimum, we're gonna have a tithing standard of tithing as partners. And so as owners, we all hold each other accountable to that in our personal lives and are walking with each other in our personal finances to have that transparency. There's nothing hidden, and that we can be accountable to what we believe God's calling us to be. And that's outside, that's kind of over and above what a company is. That's like one of the things that has impacted us. And then the other example I'd say is Sabbath, right? Which is very counterculture to Western culture of work harder, faster, bigger, but we were made to rest. We were made to rest in his example. And so from the very beginning, we said, like, our understanding when looking at it was that kind of like our normal calendar that starts on Sunday and ends on Saturday, that the last day of the week was Saturday, sundown. And so we just shut down the company Fridays at sundown until Saturday nights at sundown. And most of our team doesn't work in the weekends at all, but we do ask everybody to commit to that as part of their offer letter, whether they believe what we believe or not, that whatever you do, you can do whatever you want. Just do not work on Never Settle from sundown Friday to sundown Saturday. And we encourage them to say, and we really hope you rest, like, go find time to be away, to unplug. And so that's one of the things that we have gone to just put in place to create rhythms of rest for our people. And it's been extremely fruitful. And again, we've had some pushback on it where people are like, you can't close your business. You can't close down. And really, like, God's the one that provides for us. So we can do, like, we can just trust him that's going to work out. And it has. And it's been, I think the biggest gift in that has been a gift to our people. And it's really interesting that it took many years for our people. I think for some people just thought, oh, you're just doing this religious exercise. Years later, we had people being like, man, I just want you to know, like, I'm so grateful, like, that you guys have put these limits on us. It's like been really healthy for my life personally. So, and I think that's the fruit of following God, right? Like, I think when we align ourselves to scriptural principles, the fruit of it will be a blessing in our life in some way or another. And I'm not talking about name it and claim it, or I do this and I make money, nothing like that, but like a blessing. And that blessing is typically, again, I feel like spiritual health, like peace, deep shalom in your life. So those are three examples that to me are more on that practical side of what it looked like as we were praying into and just thinking about how to do business.
Yeah. Yeah. And that Sabbath is a game changer. I mean, the idea isn't to work 6 days making money, and then the seventh day is when you do your laundry and mow the lawn and, do everything else. It's like, I mean, at some point during the week, you're going to have to do all of the things for your own household and you're not necessarily working directly for your company. So there's got to be some margin for that. Appreciate how you guys are committed to doing that.
Yeah. Sabbath it's a family topic for me and my wife. Again, just, we talk about this continually. What does that look like? And we've had our own, like, how do we abide in rest? And it's difficult. And I wish it wasn't, but everything in our culture is pulling us to do more. And we're so full that we don't have the margin to do that. But we've tried to do that same thing of just like, at our minimum threshold is like nothing that's income producing or that's part of our normal work. Right. So for me, that's a lot in technology and business. And so like all that gets shut down, but then having questions like, is it okay? Is it good? Is it wise? Is it healthy for me to walk with God and to be working on the house? And I've kind of come to a conclusion, like, not really. Now, if I love gardening, that's like a way for me just to connect with God. Like, that's different than like me going out and pulling weeds, which is more work to me than maybe someone that loves to garden.
Yeah.
So, but I think what's beautiful about walking with God is it's relational. Like, it's not like, and that's what religion's done from the very beginning, is we don't like that that it's not black and white. We don't like that we just want an answer, right? So that's where religion has come in, and it's said, like, all these extra, the whatever it was, almost 1,000 laws that the Jews had added on top of the Torah was so they could define what work was. For instance, on Sabbath, they're like, well, 500 steps is work, but up to that, it's not. Versus just walking with God, saying, what does that mean? Not to, like, what does it mean for me to obey, walk in your ways, and to not work? And so for us as a family, again, it's changed over the years.
Yeah.
Like what it's looked like. Yeah.
What are the main one or two things that you look at and say, this is how I know that I'm successful as a business owner? Because you got a lot of different irons in the fire. But what do you look at, or what do you measure that really convinces you that I'm successful in business?
So it's a humbling question, because the truth is, most days I'm looking at our P&L. Like, I'm looking at, are we growing? Are we hitting the goals that we've set? These metrics. So I would say that is one area that I am looking at a lot. But I think the things that keep me coming back to work and where I'm rooted in my true identity is, are we discipling our people? Like, that's probably the number one of the top ones for me. So our mission statement is to create cultures of discipleship through business and innovation. And for us, business and innovation is that's the giftings that he's given this group of people. And so we want to create cultures of discipleship, and cultures is plural because we've launched multiple companies. And so we just want each one to be a culture that's number one, being a disciple first, and then two is creating disciples. So that's when I see that we're getting off the path, when our people, which we've had people, especially in the COVID season, in 2020, people just saying like, I just don't feel like I'm being mentored or trained or whatever. And I'm thinking, wow, like the alarm bells are going off, because that's our number one mission, like to love people, to be with them. And so that's probably one of the top metrics or things that I look at. Like, are we creating cultures of discipleship? It would be one of them. And then the second one is, are we moving the needle? Are we making an impact in trafficking? And that's really complex and really hard to do. But those are the two things that I'm looking at. And when I believe and I can stand back and say, okay, we're walking with God in this, like we're loving people well, and we're using his resources to set the captives free, to see the oppressed free, then I think, okay, like we're on the right path. And it's hard most days, right? Because you're caught up in email and meetings and these things that don't feel like they're making an impact. But when I can step back and put it all together, I realize if we follow those two things, I think we're walking with him in that.
Yeah. How do you measure discipleship?
We don't have metrics. So I think it's just looking at people and spending time with them and getting their feedback, right? So we got feedback from people that said, I don't feel like I'm being trained or mentored. And that to me is a part of discipleship. It's just like meeting someone's practical needs and walking with them. So our measurement is in all the one-on-ones. And then also just to see people's growth. It's kind of like, how would I measure my children's, am I discipling them, right? And it's more these metrics where I see like, where were they at a year ago and where are they at today? But we don't have like specific metrics that we look at. It's really just mental measurements of someone at different places in time, and talking with them, where are we loving you well? Where are we failing? And just getting their honest feedback.
Yeah. I think I was browsing around on your website in preparation, and I came across, it must have been like a company address or something that you were giving and talking about the, I guess the feedback forms. These were kind of employee satisfaction surveys, or is that what I'm thinking of?
Yeah, I don't know about the article, but we do that for sure. So we have our one-on-ones where we're getting feedback. We also we do annual surveys. And then recently I had a ton of people tell me I need to watch this Ted Lasso show. And I started watching it, and I love this idea of the anonymous like feedback box. And so that's something we started implementing, because as much as like we have such good relationship with our people, and I want to believe they can be 100% transparent. And I would say history has shown like they've been really honest about things that are very hard to talk about. But I also have just been taught by some mentors in my life, like there is still something that can create someone from having just radically honest feedback. And so now we've created an anonymous feedback form for anybody to just submit things. So I'd say between like our biannual surveys, we do all hands trips, like we fly everyone to one place and we spend a week together and really dive deep, our one-on-ones, and then this anonymous survey. Those are different inputs or ways that we've received that feedback.
If there was, and I don't know how familiar or how much you remember about the specific language on those feedback forms, but if there was like one or two statements on there that would really indicate, if you said, how do we know we're discipling our people? Let's look at item 7 and 13 on that assessment, or whatever it might be. Is there a statement like that would, because these are, I'm assuming not everybody at the company is a Christian.
Correct. Yeah.
But yeah. And, Jesus's disciples were being discipled before they even really knew what was going on either. So, it doesn't have to be like a stepwise process of they go through the Roman road, pray a prayer of salvation, and now they're being discipled. I think discipleship is discipling nations. You're shifting culture. I mean, it's a little bit hard to even identify exactly what stage of the process somebody is in, but Is there maybe somebody is, because I hear this a lot from business owners, I want to disciple my people. Um, how could you, what's a way that you could ask a sort of pluralistic group of employees, diverse group of employees, if they're being discipled without even necessarily using that Christian language?
That's a great question. The thing that comes to mind is one of the things I try to be careful of is if I'm speaking to our team, to speak words over them that make them feel like I have to do this or that I have to like take on this language or whatever. But I would say year after year, a theme that has emerged is a very consistent thing of like never settles my family. And there's some language about family and something to the extent where they'll say, I've never been in a place like this. I know people care about me. And, other people saying things like, I don't know if I'm allowed to, but I talk about my personal life on issues that I don't even talk about my closest friends to with my boss or whatever. And I just want you to know, I really appreciate that. Mm-hmm. And so, but I think the way that the team has incorporated this language, and like I said, I've never tried to do that because I don't want to cast this vision. It's like, hey, we're family. And it's like, people are like, we're not really family. And I'm kind of pushing that down. It's something that organically came up from the bottom, and new people say it without being told to do it. So when we're walking, I'm just like, man, I feel like I'm in a family. And that to me, I would say family represents one of the closest bonds of love. And so I think to disciples, to love really well, obviously like there's a teaching component, but I'm also a huge fan of, I believe it was St. Francis of Assisi who said it, but I heard somebody recently said, no, it wasn't really him. So I don't know if it's him or not, but I love this idea of like, preach the word of God every day. And if necessary, use words. And so I am hopeful that with our actions, we can show people, and we're very transparent when we go through hard things. We let people into that process, and we let them to see conflict or see challenges, hoping that we can do the right thing and what it looks like to walk with God. So I think, I get to read some surveys about our team, especially our leadership and the team saying, like, I am so taken back by the way that you live your life or the way that you handle the situation. When I see someone saying that about one of our leaders, it's, I think, okay, like we're doing something right. But it's, again, there's no perfect checkbox, but those are the things that stand out.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess the takeaway for me is if you want to know, if you're discipling, a good question to ask is to find out the extent to which your people believe that you care about them, because anything that you do from that point, not just that you care about the mission, not just that you care about the P&L, but that you care about them. Anything you do after that is, that's going right into good ground. That's not going into that rocky, hard soil, that Jesus talked about, but somebody that's probably pretty receptive to the way you live your life. And whether they want to sign up for that or not, there's still some osmosis that's probably happening there if they know you care. Right. Yeah.
That's the foundation. I forgot about this, but it reminds me, I was a Young Life leader for quite a while. And this was many years ago. So I'm not speaking on their behalf or exactly what it was, but I know that the first philosophy was you have to earn the right to speak into a teenager's life. And it was either 1 year or 2 years, like unless they bring up Jesus or anything about like their salvation or walking with God, or like you never bring it up, because you are going to show up and you're going to invest in this child's life. And you're gonna earn the right to speak in their life. You're not just gonna be a guy that shows up, spews all this stuff on them, and then leaves. Which is also why they have these huge commitments. Like their volunteers are doing, I think it's 20 hours a week. It's significant, and it's a 2 or 3 year commitment, because they're saying we can't have people come in their lives trying to transform them in some of the darkest, hardest places of their lives, and then jet. So that just reminds me of that, like building that fertile soil. Like someone has to know truly that, number one, you're going to be there and that you care about them. You have to have that fertile ground for the soil to come, right? To till up that hard ground before you can plant a seed. So I totally agree with what you just said.
Well, you said it. I was just echoing it. And I think it's a good point for us to really depart on, contemplate on. What's a way that people can get involved with what you're doing, Kenn? Maybe learn more about what you're doing.
Yeah, probably the best way is just to go to neversettle.it, and that's a lot of stuff that we're doing there. We're actually launching an initiative right now that's not public yet, but in May, something will be coming out that's very specific to going after human trafficking and bringing lots of organizations together. And so that'll be announced on Never Settle. So that's probably the best way to find out about that. And yeah.
Beautiful. Well, Kenn, this has been excellent, really challenging for me because one of my strengths is not showing people how much I care about them. But it's a growth area for me. And I mean, that's, if you want to make disciples, I mean, that's where there's got to be some fertile ground, right? And we have a part to play in that. I think sometimes we can look at that parable and say, oh, well, this person's they're just hard, and they're against God. They don't want anything to do with God. Well, maybe you have a role in helping to kind of soften them up, just through being encouraging and being available, letting them know you care. I mean, Young Life, perfect example. If anyone knows of Young Life or has been around any Young Life leaders, Mark Lowell, I'll never forget this man from my high school growing up. I mean, he was in the lunchroom, he was at the wrestling matches, he was at the football games. I mean, this guy just poured his life into those high school students. And I just will never forget him being available for people like that. But so good. Kenn, any last parting advice for our listeners?
No. I said I jumped to no, but then it hit me. So I take that. I received that comment. I would encourage anyone that's in the business world to not look at yourself as a secondhand Christian. Like I feel like there's something that's been culturally established that if you're not part of the clergy and you can't check that box, there's something that says I'm a secondhand Christian. I'm not totally walking in the will of God or what He has for me because I'm not full-time ministry, right? And that's just not true. Like historically, from the beginning until now, that is not true. And I think it's a lie of the enemy. And I think one of the things to just encourage everyone that's in business right now, you are in a very, very unique time where business has more influence in this, I guess, in my personal opinion, has more influence on culture and people than any other entity in the world right now.
100%.
More than the local church, which I think is more important than business. So this isn't about importance. It's just more than local government, federal government. And those things are all really important. But I think right now, businesses just have more influence over culture than anything else. And so the question that it leaves with us, if you're in business, if you're in the marketplace, what's my responsibility? What does it look like to steward this unique time in space, like Esther, right? Like I was appointed for this time for this very purpose. Why are you here right now? Because if you were in business 80 years ago, your influence is very different than it is today. So just encouraging people, like your work matters, and it's absolutely kingdom. Like it can absolutely be kingdom work, but how you do that work is really that impact. It's not what kind of work you're doing; it's how you're doing it. So that's what I would do with.
Well, Kenn, you and Never Settle are a great example of what you just said. So thank you for the work you're doing. Thank you for being so transparent and helpful to our listeners today. Thanks for helping us grow.
Thank you. I appreciate being here.
We hope you've enjoyed this episode. And if so, we would greatly appreciate it if you would leave us a quick rating and review for the Christianity in Business podcast on iTunes. You can get more information about HBU Center for Christianity in Business at christianityinbusiness.com. Thanks for listening, and remember to keep integrating biblical values into your business.